Dinarland Talk. First up from Anonymous. When will the Kurds be happy? We now even see the Sunnis complaining to the UN about this. In my opinion, the Sunnis want to know why hasn't the UN been able to do enough to force the Kurds to the table? The Sunnis are in agreement with the Shiite paper of Hakim. Come on UN, get this done. So, when will the Kurdish delegation to work out the national oil law sit down and ink a deal with Baghdad once and for all? Articles last week said it was to be this week. It's Friday and it appears it won't happen this week. On top of that, I would suggest that the underlying negotiations even broke down this week, as it appears the Kurds probably stomped out and took their toys with them. The article today now says that they are sending a delegation next week to discuss the referendum. This suggests to me that they weren't happy again and so are saying that we are just going to move forward with our referendum to split since we can't get the oil/budget sharing agreement we want. The Sunnis then started complaining to the UN for failing this negotiation process, and Sadr started up the demonstrations again. Of course, in my opinion, as to Chapter 7, the articles this week in conjunction with all available facts demonstrate that Iraq has not completed all imposed obligations. If they had, do you not think that they would be pounding on the door of the UN for full release? They clearly have stated that the Kuwait compensation file remains. We know according to articles that there is some investment deal in the works to take care of the remaining installment, but they have clearly stated this week that this file remains. Iraq is not even on the UN August monthly program of work. Perhaps we will see Chapter 7 lifted in September, but it certainly was not in July. It was not yesterday, and the facts available today, at least, would strongly suggest it will not happen in August. In my opinion, the articles also suggest that the IMF was not totally happy with Iraq. Sure, the political spin from Iraq says they were, but look at the facts. The IMF gave them a waiver for non-performance. They stated that Iraq has made strides with anti-corruption and curtailing funding of terrorism but have more to do. Additionally, they still have to eliminate currency restrictions and eliminate the MCP. The IMF threw Iraq a $800+ mil bone, but the carrot still dangles. The exciting thing is that they appear to have limited their window until September, when the third review of the SBA begins, and again noted as part of the upcoming performance criteria the elimination of currency restrictions and MCP. Please note, this is a planned review in accordance with the terms of the installment schedule of the $5+ billion loan already approved. They have performance criteria set by the executive board of the IMF in order to receive each installment. The third review that starts in September is with the IMF technical staff. Remember, they met with Iraq 3 different times in order to help Iraq complete the performance criteria for the second review. They then prepared their report and sent it to the executive board, who stated they would consider meeting in the beginning of August only if Iraq completes all that they were assigned. At the time, Mosul was one item yet to be completed. If they met, they would decide if Iraq would receive the third installment of the loan by the 3rd or 4th week of August. I am not sure who started the diatribe that this meeting was moved up, but IMSO, the meeting happened exactly as originally proposed. IMSO, there will be no change in rate, no move to Article 8 and no lifting of Chapter 7 until the oil agreement/budget sharing and subsequent national reconciliation happens. The UN threw Iraq a $131 million bone and the IMF their $800+ million bone, but the carrot will still dangle until the oil agreement is signed and the national reconciliation paper is enacted. Employers may be going through their one-to-one bookkeeping exercise, but payroll will continue at the official CBI program rate until the Kurds/Baghdad sign their oil/budget sharing agreements. This may happen in weeks or months or never, but rest assured, IMSO, until it is signed, we will keep watching and waiting and wasting. From Frank 26. Sanctions are a separate part from the IQD's MR, but would be greatly influenced in a positive direction if the 3 zeros were lifted. In my opinion, we feel they are lifted, and the evidence of their internationalism inside of Iraq at the moment proclaims it. Concerning the MR, in my opinion, August is a month of acclamation, wink. Finally. In my opinion, One cannot follow a consistency with the MR because the rule makers are bending them for Iraq's MR at this moment. You see, when light travels faster than its own speed, light tend to bend as well. I am curious to know if the 5 tankers of oil, discussed a couple of weeks ago, have ever arrived in the U.S. They have, and they continue to arrive. From Delta. Hello family. This is an example of Tanzania when they did accept Article 8 back on 1996. The press release came out on July 25, 1996. But the effective date was July 15, 1996. So the IMF were notified 10 days before the press release. Wink, press release, Tanzania accepts Article 8 obligations July 25, 1996. The government of Tanzania has notified the International Monetary Fund, IMF, that it has accepted the obligations of Article 8, Sections 2, 3, and 4 of the IMF Articles of Agreement, with effect from July 15, 1996. IMF members accepting the obligations of Article 8 undertake to refrain from imposing restrictions on the making of payments and transfers for current international transactions or from engaging in discriminatory currency arrangements or multiple currency practices without IMF approval. A total of 130 countries have now assumed Article 8 status. Two of the purposes of the IMF, as stated in its Articles of Agreement, are to facilitate the expansion and balanced growth of international trade, and thereby to contribute to the promotion and maintenance of high levels of employment and real income, and to assist in the establishment of a multilateral system of payments in respect of current transactions between IMF members. In seeking to achieve these objectives, the IMF exercises firm surveillance over the exchange rate policies of its members, and oversees the elimination of exchange restrictions which hamper the growth of world trade. By accepting the obligations of Article 8, Tanzania gives confidence to the international community that it will pursue sound economic policies that will obviate the need to use restrictions on the making of payments and transfers for current international transactions, and thereby contribute to a multilateral payments system free of restrictions. Delta. From CBAS, look. Effective 10 days prior. Thoughts of early study years ago said the same, you won't know until days later. Of course we here at KTFA may have a front row ticket. Hoot owl, hey Delta, on your post of Tanzania are you saying that the IMF has been notified from Iraq that they too agree to the terms and agreements of Art 8, and might I add that it was done on either the 21st or at their meeting on Aug 1 St. Thanks. From Don 961, slideshow. President Putin / President Trump. The two most powerful leaders in the world, on vacation at the same time. Apparently their work is done. Their plan / deal in progress? From Saleh, Iraq issued a sovereign bond Euphrates June 8, 2017, 12 a.m. Baghdad / Hussein Thugbin, a move that strengthens the confidence of the world in Iraq and for the first time the intervention of the Republic of Iraq itself to promote and abuse the Iraqi international debt in the global capital market for debt. Financial advisor to the Prime Minister Dr. The appearance of Mohammed Saleh confirmed to the morning that the sovereign international sovereignty of Iraq bears the name Euphrates and the value of $1 billion issuances, pointing out that this measure gives a strong signal to investors to deal with Iraq with high confidence, as well as the possibility of funding the general budget flexible external or international or global financial markets and not multilateral financial institutions or institutions. He pointed out that the important thing in this subject is the confidence of investors in the Iraqi economy and the strength of the national economy, promising victory in the front of the war on terrorism, and we are now reaping the results of the victory really. Saleh bin said that the number of international investment companies that have offered to buy and compete against it amounted to about 350 global investment companies with investment portfolios of more than $12 trillion and have applied for, buy, and approached the barrier of $6 trillion oversubscribed, including the Abu Dhabi Investment Fund and the Monetary Fund and the Education Fund in California, one of the wealthiest funds in the U.S. West Coast and the world. He confirmed that the sale took place on Wednesday, August 2, 2017 in London by the underwriters, and the bond was registered for sale and purchase in the Irish stock market, using the standards of the European Union, one of the most easy and efficient financial markets, and the lowest category of bond is $200,000 in multiples. He pointed out that the interest paid half a year and thus issued by the Republic of Iraq in 2017 successive international sovereign debt syndicates linked to trading in the international capital market until the first day, Tigris, benefit of 149% value of issuances $1 million guaranteed by the U.S. government. Today, the second sovereign bond, Euphrates, secured by the government of the Republic of Iraq has been issued and classified as B credit and carries interest at about 6.75%, which is less than the Iraqi international bond traded in the secondary markets since 2006, to settle the debts of the Paris Club trade name 2028 and its benefit or yielded at 7.6% currently. He explained that the average annual interest rate on the Tigris and Euphrates versions, blinded according to the WACC, is 4.4% per year. From Dawn 961, Kuwait renews support for Iraq. June 8, 2017, 12 a.m. Najaf, Hussein al-Kabi, the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmad al-Jaber al-Sabah, reiterated his country's keenness to support the government and people of Iraq, expressing his readiness to facilitate the work of Kuwaiti investors in Iraq. The governor of Najaf, Luay al-Yasiri, said after his meeting in Kuwait his congratulations to the people of Iraq after the victories achieved by the security forces to organize the preacher of the terrorist. Stressing that he received a great welcome from Sheikh Sabah, the demands presented to him. A detailed presentation was made during the meeting with Prince Sabah on the investment aspects and economic resources possessed by the province of Najaf, which encourages investors and capitalists to work in the province, he said, adding that he had asked the Emir of Kuwait to open a consulate for the country in Najaf, to facilitate the entry of visitors to the holy sites to the province during visits and religious events, especially that Najaf has an international airport receives tens of thousands of passengers annually, as well as facilitate the granting of visas and the entry procedures of traders and industrialists Najaf into Kuwait, what commercial and economic relations solid. Last up from Cap. Article, Iraqi bonds are offered in the Irish market at a rate of 6.752% per annum. Can they do this if the currency isn't internationally recognized? Sure they can, they sell them in dollars. Keep in mind the dinar is internationally recognized as it is the currency of Iraq. There are no restrictions preventing a banking institution from converting it if they so choose to do so, they just don't because the CBI is in Article 14. Until they meet the requirement of Article 8 and accept those conditions, the world's financial system will mostly stay clear of it. Think of Article 8 as a standard to participate, not a requirement. End. More at iqdcalls.com.